Welcome to That Card Collectors Podcast with your host, Ian Taylor.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome to That Card Collectors Podcast. My name is Ian, and joining me this week is Josh.
What it is.
Josh, I built up the fact that you might jig around and dance on the video that we can see during that opening credits, but I'm sure you were, but your video froze in the
Oh,
fun way
boy.
of things. So I'm missing all of his moves.
That one was on point too.
Yeah, I know. Well, next time. We have a special guest this week. We haven't had a guest of this stripe for a little bit, and what I mean by that is someone who is, I think it's fairly safe to say that we describe you as a character collector. Would that be right?
Yeah, that's completely
That would be
valid
correct.
there. Yep.
I mean, listen, loads of people know him. We know him and love him as the Juggernaut collector. Ryan Beckner is on the episode this week. Good morning to you.
Good morning to you guys. Thank you for having me.
All the way over in California. Is it sunny California, or is the sun still not up?
We are no, not quite yet. Sun is coming up right now, actually. But we're just getting through the area that I live in. We're just getting through winter right now, so we're just now starting to see a little bit of sunshine.
Right.
So,
So you're on the bit of California that has more seasonal weather, yeah?
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm
Right.
pretty far north. I'm above Sacramento. So.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. thank you.
Yes.
For getting up early.
No worries. Happy to do it, guys.
Awesome.
Now, this wasn't where I was going to start, but I'm going to start here because it's kind of relevant, really. So, you've got a little bit of con crud at the moment.
Yep. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I'm recovering a little bit from a little bit of a OAX con crud there. I was down there in Florida.
Let's start there then. How was it?
For me, it was everything that I was looking for. Honestly, I had I wanted to go the previous year, and some of that original art, the Just Go 2016s, popped up. Everybody that's kind of in our community knew what was going on with that, and that kind of wiped out my budget for what I would have had to go there. I wouldn't want to go there and be like limited and not be able to spend money the way that I wanted to and stuff like that. So I took a pass on it last year. Ended up going this year. Fantastic time, man. I could not have had a better time, honestly. I loved it. It was a great experience. I got to share actually a little bit of my collection there in the gallery, and had a really good time. I met a lot of people that I talked to online, had never met in person and stuff like that, and it was awesome to hang out and get to know everybody a bit better. So
good. So what? I mentioned that you're a big sort of Juggernaut collector. So we'll come back to OAX because I'm really interested to hear about the experience of it and what you may have picked up. But start us off by I think I first kind of saw you in the groups. I don't know. I can't really pinpoint it. I want to say like 3 or 4 years at least. Kind of on Facebook and around that sort of time, just after COVID, maybe.
Yep. I actually really only started becoming public in Facebook groups, on social media and stuff like that, trying to track down one specific card actually. And then that kind of, I was kind of ignorant, I guess you could say, to the fact that there was even a community out there of people that were collecting in the same manner that I was trying to do or was going to be doing, and et cetera. But yeah, whenever I was trying to track down one of the Juggernaut purple one of ones from X-Men Metal, and that's where I started joining the groups, trying to make the connections that I would have needed to make to be able to track that card down. Ironically, I met a bunch of great people. I made a bunch of friends in the group and stuff like that. The groups did not help me a single bit in finding that card. Blowout card forums actually was the method that I ended up tracking it down with. But that was around that time, probably about 4 years ago, was whenever I started becoming public with some of my stuff and what I was doing and stuff like that. So,
right. So spoilers, then you got that card, yeah? You tracked it down.
I did, yeah. Yeah.
Good. All right. Okay. Good. So you sounds like you were already kind of collecting and looking for stuff. So when did you start getting into card? Well, you're not just cards though, are you? Your original art as well.
Yeah. For sure. Do you want to start at the very beginning, or how would you
It's
want to?
entirely
Okay.
up to you. But yeah, like, give us your origin story.
Yeah.
Imagine we've
So
just met at the bar, and
okay, sure,
you know,
yeah. My introduction to Marvel was actually through the Toy Biz action figures. Whenever I was a child, I was born in 1990. My dad was a big X-Men guy. He also liked a lot of the martial arts storylines that were in comics and stuff. And he bought me a lot of those Toy Biz action figures to play with as a child and stuff. And that was what introduced me to the characters for the very first time. And then my father was also in the military. We lived on a naval base in Coronado in San Diego, and in one of the little I can never remember the name of the shop that's on the base, but they have a specific terminology for it. But you could actually buy packs of cards inside this little shop. And 95 annual was the first cards that I remember that were the ones that were that my father was buying me packs of and stuff like that. And through that process, that kind of introduced me to marble cards. Excuse me. And I wasn't, I was too young to really be like a true collector, if you will, at that point in time. And I'm one of those people that that came back to it at an older age, and dipped my toes back into it. It really was. My father passed away in 2012 in a house fire. It was a really unfortunate unexpected situation. And one of the things that didn't burn up in that fire was I had one of those big the screw down cases, the slabs that were from the 90s there that had like the actual screws in them. I had a the Juggernaut base card, not the Hollow Blast, but the Juggernaut base card in that. And then that was kind of what sparked me into going back and starting to look at more things and getting me back into seeing what was going on with these cards and having that nostalgia trigger that some of us had, that experienced the cards as kids, and then got older and moved away from them and then come back. And it was around that time that I started looking back into things and kind of seeing what was going on, with the Marvel cards and stuff like that. At that time, you had Beginnings had just come out, the 2011 Beginnings and stuff, and I started to I saw sketch cards for the first time and kind of saw what was going on. And of course, at this point in time, I'm like in the middle of college. I have no money to really be spending on this sort of stuff or whatever. But I took a pretty deep dive on it, just looking at stuff on eBay, just browsing around, kind of checking out and keeping tabs on what was going on with it and stuff like that. And that led to, if there had been a Juggernaut base card in 2016, I probably would have dabbled into it a bit more at that point. There was a Battle Spectra with him and Colossus in that set. I kind of like just didn't partake in buying any boxes or buying any cards, just kind of watched as like a bystander and stuff. I was still finishing up school and getting my life in order to be able to have funds to be able to spend on stuff like this.
Yeah.
And then I did buy a few boxes of 2020 whenever 2020 came out, Marvel Masterpieces 2020, because Juggernaut did have a base card in that. And it was 2 or 3 boxes or whatever. Didn't pull anything spectacular or whatever. And I kind of just scratched a little itch for what I was wanting to do with it, at that point in time. And whenever I saw X-Men Metal, that I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna really make this like a real passion or a real hobby. That the Juggernaut High Series card in that set is taken from the X-Men 33 title splash, and that was one of the not the very first one, but one of the very first comics that I ever saw Juggernaut in, and was introduced to Juggernaut. It was one that my dad had in his collection. He didn't have a X-Men 12 or X-Men 13, which would have been the Juggernaut's first 2 appearances, but he did have 32 and 33. So for me, those were like pretty sentimental to me as far as comics go. And then whenever I saw that they made that, because I personally think that title splash is the greatest Juggernaut image that has ever been in comics, period. And that for me it just sucked me in. And that was the card, that High Series Purple 1 of 1 was the one that I was looking for. And then that's whenever I was like, yeah, I'm gonna make this. I'm gonna commit to this, which I had been trying to hold off in doing. As far as
Right.
establishing myself with a career and having the money to be able to do it the way I would want to do it and stuff like that. But that was the catalyst in all of it, was the X-Men Metal set.
Wow. It sounds to me like you went deep into it. I mean, was that the one that had the purple 101 that you were after? Yeah.
That was correct. That was
Okay.
the high series Juggernaut X-Men Metal Purple 1 of 1 was the one I was after really hardcore. So
Nice. Yeah, that set was just trying to think when that set came out. That was a weirdly received set because it came out, but it kind of, for a lot of people, it didn't quite hit for a lot of people because the PMGs were funny
The pink,
colors.
the
They
pink,
weren't quite
yeah, the
right.
pink.
Yeah, that was a bit weird. And I even remember the person who was community coordinator at Upper Deck at the time. You've got all blurry there, Ryan.
no, I know.
What's it doing?
I'm trying to. I don't know. I don't know why it just suddenly went blurry like that. I'm trying to.
That's really strange. Oh
Yeah,
well,
let me
listen. Don't worry about it. We'll just carry on. We'll push through.
okay.
But I remember at the time that whoever was community coordinator at Upper Deck did like a focus group in the group to get collective feedback on what was good and what was bad with the set. And
Yeah.
I love the fact that they were actually open to doing that. In fact, they suggested it. I remember being on this call with like 16 other collectors and 2 of the
Wow.
folks at Upper Deck when they were just like, we were just telling them, some people with quite brutal honesty, actually, telling them what they thought of the set.
Yeah.
One guy was probably going a little bit over the top, but we won't go there. But I do like that. So, but yeah. So anyway, that was a side quest in my head. I just wanted to kind of talk about that. Just remembered it for the
Well,
first
it's
time in
interesting to
ages.
hear that too, right? From someone who
Mm.
wasn't really like that deep into it up to that point in time, right? Like I thought it was fantastic. I thought that set was. I collected that. I mean,
Yeah.
I even had. I mean, I just recently. I mean, within the last like probably 4 months, I still had a case of it. And I ripped a case of it not too long ago. Well, I shouldn't say the entire case. I ripped several boxes, maybe 9 boxes or something.
Okay.
And I pulled one of those purely periodic low numbered armor, the out of 4. That was
Ooh.
a hot. I got a lot of action for that. I had a lot of people that were hot after that.
Yeah, I bet.
But yeah, I loved that set. I mean, for someone who was really diving into it at that point, that said, it was checking all the boxes for me. So it's interesting to
Mhm.
hear that, from people that were probably,
Mm.
before me, that were, doing the sets, well before that and stuff like that, that they didn't like it that much. That's interesting to hear because I loved it.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't like.
It
I don't.
was,
I think people dug it. I think
yeah,
that it just, it Upper Deck hadn't quite hit the mark with it, and they kind of did. They did more with Spider-Man metal,
Yeah.
um,
Okay. Okay.
and the pent-up demand by the time that hit meant that set had a massive like boom. But I think it's fairly safe to say as they went on that they nailed it. I mean, Avengers metal
right.
looks pretty gorgeous from what I've seen of it. I didn't actually get to open a box of that, but it did look pretty special. So, but I just, I got a lot of respect for the fact that they took time to have a listen and they made corrections on how they put,
Yeah. Yeah. For
how they
sure.
put the
For
sets
sure.
together, which is good. Um,
Yeah, it was
but
pretty
anyway,
mixed
sorry, Josh. Mm,
for a little while. It was pretty mixed, but it turned out, some QC issues and things like that. But when it comes down to it, like you're saying, Ryan, when there's an image from one of your favorite comics or whatever it is, or even a parallel, like those periodics were fantastic out of that set.
Yeah.
That was a huge win for them on that one.
Yeah.
That's what pulls you in. And
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
so
Exactly.
it can be mixed review on a set that may not be masterpieces or may not be overwhelming positive, but it hits the right mark for you and kind of pulls you back in. So
Yeah. Yeah.
and yeah, they worked on it pretty quickly because Spider-Man metal was good and Avengers metal was fantastic. So
mm.
they
No
they put
Juggernaut
effort
in any of those sets, so I didn't really tap too much into those,
into those.
honestly. But
It,
just an innocent bystander for some of those, but they did look good though.
Yeah.
it,
They did
it
look good
makes
for
me
sure.
laugh. So Keith, who's normally on this, he posted one of those Facebook things marked safe from
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
the
yeah,
mark
yeah,
safe from Avengers Metal,
Hmm.
because of course
yeah.
X-23 wouldn't have been in
Same,
that one. So
yeah, same there.
um,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
which was quite amusing. And I
Actually,
like that one as well. I didn't go
I
anywhere near
stand
it.
corrected. There was a Intimidation Nation Juggernaut
Mm, mm.
in
Oh, okay.
Avengers Metal actually, and it was just the one card though, but there was that one.
Well, that's a relief. Just the one card, or
Yeah,
we'll
yeah,
forgive them that.
Yeah, not too bad.
It's when you get something like Spider-Man Metal and Black Cat's got not just one but two, a high and low series, and then all the shenanigans that go go along with that. So
Marvel Platinum there for every set.
Oh boy.
Oh, platinum. Oh, hell's teeth. Platinum,
That was insane.
platinum. I'm quite pleased with. I was looking at
Mm.
it the other day, and I've managed to get 3 of the 4 plates on it.
Oh,
So I'm
wow.
happy with that. And yeah, a lot of it. I think I'm just missing an out of 5 auto, and I think I'm missing the out of 10. Is that the gold seismic ones out of 10
Yep. Yeah.
on
Gold
platinum?
Seismic
Yeah,
was
and
platinum. Yeah.
they're hot. They're hot regards to
Yeah.
the numbering.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm missing one of them, and of course the one of ones I haven't got, but everything else I've now managed to nail down, which is good. So
It's impressive.
yeah, it's expensive,
It
right? Is
is.
what it is.
Trust me. I know. Yeah.
Lordy. Okay. So how deep do you go then? Just as on a scale of like I'm just thinking of playing Halo, where you've got like the easy level, and then you've got like legendary. I think is the most hardcore one. With
Legendary is.
all skulls on.
I'm a Halo fanatic as well. Actually, I'm a big Halo fan, so that's a great reference.
Well, yeah, I've got all mine up here. All my Halo. Where are they? They're
Exceptional.
somewhere over there. Anyway, carry on.
Definitely, I would consider what I'm doing is probably legendary difficulty. I go for every parallel, one of one, from every set that gets released. I've actually been, I mean, well, I should say this. For to collect that way, as you said, is very expensive, and I needed to find a place where it made sense, I guess is the right way to say it, for that to end, because it's every parallel, every of 5, every of 10, um, everything dating back to 1987 is what I have up to the end of Upper Deck, and that's where I decided that I was going to draw the line.
Oh, interesting, because that's my
So,
cutoff as well.
well, I think there's I mean, I don't know how many people
Yeah.
you've talked to, but there's several of us out there like that as
Mm.
well. I've not touched tops at all. We can go into that in a separate conversation in a bit.
we will. Yeah.
And there was things that it was a natural process. It was the way I was collecting was coming to an end or whatever, if that makes sense. Like I mean, if you're gonna have, top so far has been pretty much Marvel Platinum for everything that they've released almost, or at least in the beginning, right? With Sapphire, all this stuff. Excuse me.
All the chrome, yeah.
And it pushed me further into the decision to cut it off at that point as well. It was like kind of a twofold situation, if that makes sense. There was things on one side, and then obviously the natural trajectory of things coming to an end that led to that. But my collection, whenever it's all said and done, will be 1987, which is the first Juggernaut card that exists, to the very end of Upper Deck, and we're talking every green PMG, every of 5 card, one of ones for every set possible, and that's
Wow.
for what I have is X-Men metal to the end. Except for that very last, the Upper Deck Spider-Man. They did like an Upper Deck Avengers that were kind of
the retail ones.
The retail ones. There is a Juggernaut versus Spider-Man battle time in that set that has a one of one. I don't have that, but Marvel Masterpieces 2020, 2024, 2022, all those I have one of ones for Juggernaut for all those. Fleer Ultra Wolverine. I have everything that you can possibly get. Excuse me, for that card. Actually, I have the original art, every prelim, all 4 plates, the Gold Spectrum one of one, every parallel. I loved that art, that Tom Fleming art. I there's some things that Tom Fleming does where I think it kind of looks the same. You could say that for Liddy Lee, to be fair as well, but I thought that the way he did Juggernaut in that Fleer Ultra Wolverine set was very special, and it stood out to me a lot. And I wanted to really pursue it because I love the way he did it. But yeah, I've been able to maintain that, and that's as that's one plate, if not more, for all those sets as well. I try to, most people that collect try to go for at least one plate for whenever the sets are released or whatever.
Yeah.
For some of the masterpieces, I have like Dan Dos Santos, I've got 4, and then Palumbo's I have 4.
Nice.
But yeah, I try to, I'm pretty dedicated to this. I love it, and I wish that I had been able to kind of get into it the way that I wanted to get into it a bit sooner, but I just didn't have the status or the career and the money and stuff like that to be able to do it. Whenever like the Rittenhouse stuff was like super banging and stuff. I was in college or in high school and stuff like that, and I'm backlogging, a lot of that stuff now, or
Yeah.
well, I was. I'm at this point now, just for transparency, I'm only missing like a couple things in that entire
Wow.
catalog there.
Wow.
A beginnings plate, a Marvel Platinum plate, ironically, the base plate, the QFX autograph,
hmm
out of 35 from the 97 set, and then the Grego variant cover auto and a variant cover plate, and then and the green PMG from 92 masterpieces, and that's it. That's all the
Wow.
stuff that I
Okay.
possibly could need. Yeah.
Just a little bit then. Just,
Yeah,
few.
just
yeah.
a few biggies in that lot.
There'll always be a
Well,
list.
you know what's crazy about that is I have the gold 1 of 1 PMG from 92 Platinum, but I don't have
Wow.
the green PMG.
Yeah, the greens. I mean, people go nuts for the greens because of the legacy of them from sports.
Well,
So,
whenever you're like kind of doing it the way that like you see them, you're like in most cases, whenever a set's released, everyone's opening up product.
yeah,
Stuff is on EPAC. You see the things. I've actually not even seen one, which is interesting because I think that
that is
that that product itself is just a horrific pull rate. I mean, 92 Platinum is just horrendous,
yeah,
and I think that plays a lot into it. They only released 10 to 20% of it on EPAC to begin with
that's
anyway.
right. That's right.
So it's been a lot harder to find those, but eventually
Yeah.
I'm sure I'll come by one. But
I think. Well, listen. I think
yeah,
the one thing that I think character collectors share is patience.
yeah.
I mean, you have to be to a degree.
Right.
I also think it's about knowing your limits. So, for example, for me, if I don't know about you, Ryan. So what I've got is I've got a big ass Google sheet, and it's got everything on there for Black Cat since the beginning. Her first
Yeah.
card was 99. No, sorry, 89. Sorry. It's got a few stickers before that and a stamp, a Secret
Okay.
Wars stamp, which is 1984, which I've got one of those. And I think there was a Pog somewhere in there as well. And I basically have this spreadsheet, and if one of the first columns is owned, yes or no, and if it's
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
the whole row goes green. Who doesn't love a bit of conditional formatting? Let's
Yeah.
be honest. So, but I do have some notable gaps, which are largely down to just you can either afford it or you can't. So, for example, I don't have any of the red spectrums. Not that there are that many for Cat. There's 16. There's 2020. There's 2022, I believe.
Yeah.
The gold 1 of 1 PMG from Flea Ultra Spider-Man that went on ComC way before COVID.
Okay.
You can actually see it having come and gone as well, which is quite. So you can see a picture of it. That's the beauty of ComC. You can see a picture of it.
Yeah.
You have
Yeah.
no idea how much it
No, it
sold
was
for.
there at once.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Let me tell you, it didn't sell for that much.
Yeah.
Someone with sales
Yeah.
history points did look. It was in the 3 figures rather than the 4 figures.
Wow.
Imagine that. No one was spending that on them
Yeah.
before COVID. So so there are gaps there, and I've got like percentages for every type. So I've got a column of types. So I've got cards, I've got printing plates, I've got stickers, I've got TCG, and this is what I meant by how deep down the rabbit hole do you go.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Do you go further? Oh, that's fine. I just there are levels to this shit.
Any
Yeah.
appearance of the
Absolutely.
character in
Absolutely.
any
Yeah.
TCG
Absolutely.
or any.
Absolutely. I
Yeah,
don't do
but
that.
some
I
people
only do
do
cards that
text
he's featured on.
only as well.
Okay. Wow.
I don't
Yeah.
go that far. I don't do checklists and things.
Yeah, no, I don't do any of that. My collection is only cards that he is featured or he's the feature on. Like for example,
Right.
if there's a Hulk card where he's battling Juggernaut, I don't pick those up. It's only his cards that he's featured on, or if he's in like a battle time or like a combo card with another character,
Yeah.
I will do
So
those though
he's
as
a
well.
named character, I guess. Is that
Correct.
is that
Yeah.
right? Okay, I'm with you.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, you're much more sensible than me because I just bought. I finally managed to track them down. One of the Rittenhouse sets had 5 case toppers, with a little seal on them.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And there were 5 of them. Now she only appears on the front of one of them, but my criteria for Black Cat is if there's a visual
An optical
appearance of her or a part of her where she's recognizable as a character. Yeah, in that outfit. Okay, so on the back of each of these 5 case toppers is an image of all 5 case toppers, which includes the image of case topper 1 that she's
Ah,
on.
I see.
So of course I have to own all 5 of them.
Wow.
And I finally tracked down a set. It took years to track
Wow.
down a set of those because they're all numbered, and that particular set, I mean, it's one of the Marvel Universe sets. Yeah, they're quite limited. So that's the rabbit hole there. So I guess there's different levels to it. You know, you can go legendary in one direction, but not be able to afford the one of ones because you're chasing that sort of crap.
Yeah.
And then you can go for the one of ones and just keep it more purely focused. And you know, there's no right or wrong way of doing it.
Well, let me
I just find it
let
fascinating.
me throw this tidbit in here that adds kind of a bit more to my situation as well. I grade everything too. My collection is fully graded, and I go for the highest grades possible. So
Oh wow.
I have
Okay.
multiple copies of, you know, the green PMGs, things like that. You know, so my collection is to have every card, but it's that, you know, is Juggernaut featured on, but it's also to have them in the highest grades possible. For example, some of the depths of hell that I've went to here. Here's a good one. The Toy Biz action figures that I referenced earlier that I had as a
Yep.
kid,
Mhm.
they have the card that's inside the back of those, right? I have the only Juggernaut PSA 10 that exists of that card,
Wow,
and
that's
I
tough.
also have the X-Men Series 1 of that as well. So I have the
Wow.
91 Impel and then the 91 or the X-Men Series 1 Toy Biz as well. Those are both the only 2 that exist in the world that are PSA 10s of those cards. And we're talking hair dryer to make sure the glue comes or the tape comes off correctly on the card. You know,
Right.
like, you know, full like workup on that to
You've
make sure that.
sweated over this, haven't you?
Well, I'm
You
gonna
really
say,
have.
yeah. There's a gentleman. I shouldn't say I take all the credit for that. There's a gentleman named Matt McBrien who is a Gambit
Okay.
collector who kind of helps me out with some of this to get those to get the Series 1 card. I actually picked that up from him at OAX, and he was the one that he sent me a video, showed me how he did it, you know, and we talked about it thoroughly how we were going to do it because he thought it had a chance. You know, a lot of the ones that are behind the action figures, they get tilted or they get,
Sure.
they
Yeah.
move, you know, and stuff like that. So it's very hard. I mean, I had submitted, I want to say 9 copies of the original, the original Impel before I got a 10.
Wow.
You know, and we're
Wow.
talking looking at the action figures on eBay, looking to see if the card, just from the visual image that we can see, if it has a chance, buying the action figure, getting it here, opening it up, you know, and then sending it to PSA.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, you know, so that's an added layer to what I do as well. You know, like a
Oh
lot of the stuff
wow.
I have is, and I have a, you know, at some point in time I'll be able to share it whenever I pick up the few of the remaining pieces there that I was discussing. But I have giant cases. They hold 90 cards, and they line the walls of my house downstairs. And the cards will go in there chronologically, in order whenever it's all said and done, and that's how I'll display my collection whenever it's all
Wow.
finished.
Wow.
So
Yeah, I kind of equate that whole looking at the figure to that bit where they open the storage locker, but they
Mm.
can't go in. They can just look. They can just see if there's anything in there because it must be that sort of level of gamble because you know until you get in there. I mean, even if you've looked at it, maybe when you get it open, there's something you didn't see, or there's something on the back, or you know.
yeah.
Right.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I thought I was crazy, Josh.
Yeah. 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 No, what you do with the promotional stuff and having every image of the character is impressive. But
Well,
yeah,
there's you know,
he
like I
goes
said, there's different levels of crazy, and none of them's right
right.
or wrong. It's just
And
Yeah,
I
for
think it's
right.
sure. Yeah.
fascinating.
Like
And I
I,
don't condone
Fascinating.
anybody that's listening to this. I don't condone what I'm doing. Don't do what I'm doing because it's not like you shouldn't. It's not a
that's
financially responsible like thing to do. If you know what I mean. But like I'm blessed and fortunate enough to be able to do that way.
yeah.
And I try to tell people like don't like follow the model of what I'm doing because it's, you know, I mean you have to be like prepared to go to like extreme depths
Mm-hmm.
to, you know, be able to
Yeah.
get through that. You know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. I imagine it's kind of yeah. Wow. Okay. Um.
For me, I'm kind of blessed by I limit with what I can display. So I have a lot of furniture with cut glass and LED and stuff like that.
okay.
And I'm trying to expose people to some of the parallels and things they haven't seen before. Because a lot of us either come from sports and then, you know,
Yeah.
got here. And so they know some of the platinum portraits or the PMGs,
Yeah.
regardless of their exposure to the non-sports. And so throwing together some of these nice displays, games on, having a few people over,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. Yeah.
and people are just drawn to some of the real parallels that we've been blessed with over the last 15 years. And so to me, it's all about how can I display them? How can I
Yeah.
put them out and
Absolutely.
create the conversations with people? And then when the bulk and the base sets and everything get to extremes, I usually I'll sell my collection to some extent, not my high end like personal stuff, and then just kind of go on again. And then change up some of the displays and stuff. But yeah, it can be, you have to set your own, what makes you happiest in the hobby and how you collect.
Yeah, yeah.
uh,
I mean, everybody
Set
has
some
their limits,
guidelines.
right? Everybody has their different criteria, right? There's some people we could bring 15 different character collectors on here, right? And none of us collect in the exact same way for the most
Exactly.
part,
Yes.
Absolutely.
But yeah, to your point there, Josh, though, I'm very big into curation. I have like original comic art and stuff as well that's separate from like some of the trading card stuff and everything. And like I like there. I think there's an art. I should say there's an art to even the curation process, if you will. And I think that's really cool. It's a big conversation point whenever people come over to our house and visit and stuff like that. They're like, oh well, what's this? And you can spark up a conversation and introduce people to those sort of things.
I think one of the things that does take some collectors years to do it. Some people can do it out of the box, but I don't know many people that can do that. Is the kind of rushing, the difference between rushing to get everything and then really kind of, I always mentally equate it to when you've got like one of those bonsai trees and you've got the tiny little clippers and you're just snipping here and there. That kind of level of curation. When you know what it is, you're just kind of gradually molding the shape of it, and it's kind of where I've gotten to with a lot. Where I've sold a lot of my sets. I just collect elements now that kind of
Yeah,
please. And some sets I'm going deep on still, but they're very few and far between in terms of set build. So I do find it interesting that there's, it does take people a while to get to that, because I think it's like me at the moment. I'm very tempted to start dabbling in another area of cards,
okay.
but until I can actually get some in my hand, I don't really know what I like,
Yeah, yeah.
because it's a
Sure.
sports thing, not a non-sports thing.
Right.
So I'm kind of asking advice and doing all that sort of stuff at the moment, but I'm
Yeah.
holding off actually spending money until I can kind of
Figure it out. Yeah, yeah. I think there's a lot
Yeah.
of people that you'd be surprised. There was a lot of conversations I had with people that have been doing this for a long time at OAX, and we're all kind of in that same boat where we're trying to figure out and navigate what's going to be coming next for us. Because I mean, all of us have that itch, right? That like all of us
Sure.
kind of have that need to, or the desire, or there's probably a better word for it, but the will to keep going in a direction with this, and it's not really being fulfilled by tops or at least for me. And so we're all kind of trying to navigate as far as what's going to be next, in our own different ways, for sure. So
I always think of that as that KD Lang song, Constant Craving.
yeah.
That is kind of how it feels, when I speak to people. It always comes back to the ethos of that, is that you've got this kind of itch that you've got to scratch with it.
Yeah.
But it's interesting with that. So for tops, what I've chosen to do, Josh, I don't know if you've really dabbled in much tops yet, have you?
Just mint, Marvel Mint. I went in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because I loved the Gambit parallel set.
the trading
For
card.
me,
Okay.
yeah, that was just it. I like if it's not just the visual, but there's some stuff behind it. Gambit's appearances, the cards, and when someone came up with the idea to make that a parallel, that
They've
to
got a
me, that's
lovely aesthetic, I will say.
right.
That's a
Yeah,
plus in the tops column for
I
me.
agree.
That is.
I agree. I
Yeah,
agree.
and sometimes there are things that are even not so crazy aesthetically to me that I can see the future on. Like some of the jambalayas aren't crazy perfect to me. I think they need to be 3.5 by 2.5 with rounded edges. A few other little things, but it's that type of stepping outside the norm, that I really gravitate towards.
Mm. What I've done, because so the thing is, I'm kind of the opposite in that regards to you, Ryan, is that my collection is raw. So I've just
Yeah.
acquired quite a rare piece for my collection, one of the anime woodblock Peach Momoko
Okay.
sign
Yep. Hmm.
from Anime 2, and it's graded, but I'm going to be cracking it
Yeah. Yeah.
because I want it to fit the rest of my collection.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is a much
So,
healthier and more sane way to collect. I'll be
well, yeah.
honest about that. Yeah.
Um,
For
Now,
sure. For
that
sure.
being said, I do have a side kind of avenue to my collection that is graded, but I'm pretty much grade agnostic. I just like, so for example, for platinum or for Spidey Metal, I've just got one card. It doesn't matter which card. I just want one example of the art
Okay.
used in that set
Okay.
graded. It could be an 8, could be a 9, could be a 10, be lovely. In some cases for some really difficult stuff, it's maybe 6 or 7. I don't really mind. So that's what I've tended to do. But what I've decided to do with tops is just not go for the full. So it's not. I have not even listed them all out on my spreadsheet.
Okay. Okay.
I've not even done that. I've just acquired one copy. So I've got one from what's that Topps Genesis set, where everything was numbered.
Mhm.
Okay.
I think I've got one from 2025 Chrome, one from 2024 Chrome, one from 2024 Chrome Sapphire. Just one graded copy
Okay. Okay.
of
As
one
an
of the
example
cards.
of that sets, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. And
I
it sits in there.
thought about that as well. I thought about it doing something similar to that. I liked those Human Torch refractor parallels that they're out
Ooh,
of 33 or 39 or something.
yeah.
I thought those were kind of unique, but
The
yeah, I
spider
just
web ones too are
yeah,
nice.
those look
Yeah,
good. Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
the
those
one
do
I'm
look
holding
good.
on for a
The
Black Cat
web
24,
refractors, the
25.
red version
Yeah.
is beautiful, red with the blue.
Mm,
But yeah, it just I just couldn't bring myself to do it because it didn't make sense for like, if I've got if I've rainbowed everything for all these other sets, it was gonna
yeah,
feel
Oh,
weird for me to
mhm.
continue it on or whatever. So and to be honest, I'm enjoying the backlogging right now as well.
yeah.
Like
Right.
I was kind of the opposite part of what you were saying there, whereas the people who rush and grab everything as soon as the set's released, that is what I was. So like as soon as stuff was getting ripped, I'm grabbing this, grabbing this, grabbing this, grabbing this, grabbing this,
Mm,
as soon as they're popping up or whatever, and then putting it aside and then moving on to the next set, and that's that was the way that I was collecting to be able to meet that criteria, to grab all the stuff that,
yeah.
all the
Well,
parallels that
you
Juggernaut
have
was.
to for the limited and low numbered stuff, and also
Exactly.
Mhm.
so many sets so quickly together. You've just got to
Yeah.
The release
get it
point,
nailed,
Yeah.
too much.
move on.
It
Yeah,
was carnage. I'm not
Oh yeah.
gonna pretend it was not. I mean, it was just, I mean, the stress levels of this is going to end at this time, this is ending this time, this is, it was just, it was a
Mhm.
lot to keep up with, for sure. And I'm glad that that part of it is behind me for sure. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Did you e-pack as well? Did you
yeah, of course,
go
yeah,
after all the
yeah.
combos and all that sort of
That's how
stuff as
I
well?
that. Well, no, I'm not really so much. I was just kind of just a sleuth on there, where it was like I'm just refreshing to see if these cards get pulled. I mean, I was in the levels of like doing I can't remember. It was, some people called it a glitch. I don't know what the exact terminology was for it, but you could see what cards were actually in the like what cards from the set were actually going to be on EPAC that were going to be
Yeah.
available to be pulled. So you could see an image of them, and so I would
Oh,
go
interesting.
through and yeah, there was a way to be able to do that. So let's say, for example, Dan Dos Santos' set, the 2022. I knew that the Juggernaut Red Spectrum was not going to be on EPAC.
Wow.
So that changed
Wow.
the dynamic of what I was going after, right? In the way that I collected or the things that I was going to spend money on was because you would be able to see what was actually going to be. And so when if there was a card that I knew was going to be pulled or whatever, I would be constantly checking to see when it would get pulled. Like, for example, the Fleer Ultra Wolverine Gold Spectrum 1 of 1. I knew that was going to be on EPAC. So I was just waiting until the person pulled it. And then I messaged them immediately and was like, hey, I'll give you X amount for this card if you're interested in and then went about it that way.
Nice.
But yeah,
Nice.
it was just, it's almost like a blur now, because since there were
Yeah.
so many set releases, but that's like what it was like for a little while.
Yeah.
I've heard talk of this glitch. It's like kind of like an urban legend.
Okay. Okay.
Amongst, someone had told me about it a few years ago, and I never managed to replicate it. So hats off to you for finding that, because that would have saved a lot of
Yeah.
Yeah, especially
But
with
it
the
is
22.
it is nice to be able to have a chance to go back now. The releases were so crazy, such a short period of time that,
Yeah. Oh,
now
yeah.
we get a chance to take our breath, go back. And yeah, I've taken a look at a little bit of the top stuff that, some of what they're doing kind of get an exposure, but it's original art really is what it comes down to. With Upper Deck, we've gotten so lucky with some of the masterpiece sets and some of their other original art sets that Tops is, I'm sure they're going to figure it out. They've got too many
Well,
resources.
Fantastic
Not
Four looks good.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
is what I mean. This is the kind of thing that gets people really excited and back to
Yeah.
not the same feel as the Upper Deck, but a little bit closer to what we're used to.
Gist actually had those originals at OAX there too for the cards he
Oh
did.
yeah,
So those were
Oh,
cool
did
to
he?
see. Yeah.
that's
I've not
awesome.
seen those because they weren't in that little preview that went online. I don't
Yeah,
believe.
so that was really cool to see. Miles, it was interesting. I was actually at dinner with David Finch, Eric Grove, and Miles Wool and
Look at him
Gist.
name dropping over here, Josh. Look at this. Check this
Yeah,
out.
yeah,
Check
that's a
this
well,
out.
list. That's a
It was I had listen. To be fair, I had no business being at that dinner, but I was
Okay.
there.
No, it's not. I'm just
And they were talking about it, and they whenever we were at dinner there, Topps released that art for that set there, and Miles was a little disappointed that they didn't fill him in that they were going to be releasing it that day, because he would have brought his originals to OAX, but he didn't do that because he didn't know they were going to release them.
right.
And Gish just happened to have them with him. I guess maybe he didn't care or whatever, but
Zero fucks given. Yeah.
but yeah, it was an incredible. I mean, he is so talented. I mean, the piece that he did for the auction there, it was a Moon Knight where he was kind of in a.
Is this Eric?
What was that?
Is this Eric you're talking about, Gist?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
He was in like a sarcophagus, kind of like an Egyptian, and
Yeah.
that piece, man, was. I mean, it's the cover of one of the new Moon Knight releases or whatever. But it's unbelievable in person. To see that art in person like that is just unreal. The talent that those guys had is just crazy.
For my money, there's only two artists that properly nail Moon Knight, and Eric is one of them.
Yeah. He's
no disrespect to all the others that do it, but there are some that just hit you in the field.
I couldn't believe that whenever I saw it in person. I was totally baffled about how it was pristine. It was perfect. So
well, his Flair 2019. Is it 2019?
Yeah, he did 2019 Flair.
Yes, because he came on the podcast to talk about that. And I'm just, for my money, that's still possibly one of the finest Moon Knight cards I think I've ever seen. It's just jaw dropping. In fact, all of Eric's stuff was what an introduction to the hobby. I mean, he seems to have really ramped up his kind of standing. He's doing so many variant covers for Marvel and the other big publishers now. Including the Star Wars stuff. I'm really pleased for him. I really am. That must have been such an experience being there. I mean, let's think. Who was there? I know Dave Palumbo was at OAX.
Yes.
I know Dan DeSantis was there. We talked about Eric, both of them, Grove and Gist. Miles. I mean, was Adam
Dimitri
Kubert there?
Yeah, he was. Yeah. Dimitri Patelis, who did 95, some of 95 was there. Julie Bell was there. There was just, just a wonderland of all these amazing artists that are, just pivotal pieces, pillars of our community. You know what I mean?
Yes. Absolutely.
It was awesome to interact with them, talk to them, see how down to earth they were. Dave was fantastic. Palumbo, I hadn't had a chance to meet Dave. He's fantastic. I mean, we had a 10-minute conversation there. I actually talked to him about what his thought process was for the Juggernaut art that he did for 2020. I think personally, for my taste, I think that's the greatest image that Juggernaut's ever had on a card. I think because with Juggernaut, you get a lot of just this will probably click as soon as I say it.
Yep.
Like, for example, Nahuel Grego, you have Juggernaut busting through a wall. Dan Dos Santos, you have Juggernaut busting through a wall. And there's a lot of cards, even from the 90s, where that's kind of the big Kool-Aid man. Yeah, exactly. And it's a bit overdone. It's just everyone, and Dave didn't take that route. He did a little bit more with it, and I really respected that a lot. And so we talked about that for a few minutes there, and it was cool to hear his thought process and his perspective into what he was putting into that card, and why it didn't turn out like the big Kool-Aid man that we get time and
Yeah.
time again.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was awesome, man. It was a really, really cool experience. I cannot say enough good things about it, and I hope that anybody that's interested in our community definitely checks it out.
I'm just gonna share screen. I think it's worth having that on the screen for people to see on the video, if I can figure out which button it is, because it's just such a lovely image. Where
And
is it?
one of the
Where is it?
things I love about
There we go.
masterpieces is how much time they put into bringing a different art style from set to set.
That's the
Yeah.
one, isn't it?
It
And
is. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
and
2020.
so yeah, Plumoj, his
Have I
style
muted
is just
myself? I have, haven't I?
it's
There we go.
fantastic, and it was different from from 18 and from 16. So to see that style of art, it provided a kind of a fresh version for a lot of people's character.
Yeah.
The Moon Knight
Absolutely.
thing, that was fantastic too. I really loved his Moon Knight.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
So, do you have the original art from that card?
Unfortunately, I do not. That is actually the only modern masterpieces painting that I don't have. Actually,
Oh
though.
wow. Okay.
I have the preliminary painting for that though. For the runner-up is the next best possible thing, I guess. But
Yeah.
the one he did the one he did in the reds and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
I would love to. I have had Dave on my behalf reach out to the person that owns it, and he did not get a response via email about it. But hopefully one day, when the timing's right, it'll happen and it'll make sense.
Patience.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah, you got
Exactly.
patience.
But yeah, that was ironically, I have all the other ones, but that would be the one that I just love that art. I think he just did such a good job there. Yeah.
It is good. Yeah, I'm the same, by the way, with Black Cat. I don't. Well, I think I had the opportunity to own the one original art for that, as in as much opportunity as anyone else, but just beyond my means. But I've been lucky enough to grab the preliminary. When it
Okay.
came up.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, not to I mean, they are nice too. I think they're the best preliminaries. I mean, I maybe Bianchi's were comparable because his were also very distinct and unique. I thought Dan's and Nawel's were kind of on the lower end comparatively to those two. But yeah, the fact that it was actually painted, with Dave's was a nice touch. I thought for sure.
Yeah. I like Simone's because I just love his line work and the way that he crafts the
He
characters.
also obviously was at OAX, and he is also fantastic. He was also fantastic, absolutely fantastic. He came up for some of the guys broke up a case of 2018. And he came up for that, painted some cards there in person that they sold on the stream and everything. It was a great experience. So
wow, he's a bit of a mad genius, is how I kind of think of him.
Yeah. He's an interesting character too. I mean, have you ever had him on the podcast or anything? You ever talked to him? Yeah. He's a very interesting the way he thinks about stuff is just not. It's just so against the grain of what's normal. I think
Right.
Yeah.
He's so unique. He's so
he just thinks differently, doesn't he?
Yeah.
One of the things I'll take from the breakfast and never forget is he talked about his personal experiences just going on vacations and things like that. And he would see something like the waves crash on a rock over by the edge of a cove. In that snapshot, he would take that image and know that he had a painting that he's worked on. And some of them, he told me 5 to 8 years on a log, waiting for that element of fire, that lightning strike.
Wow.
Or whatever it is that he is experienced with, and that references is, it's a form of eidetic memory sort of
savant there, really.
And some of them, he said, Josh, I've got 8 years where I've just been waiting to put the right type of, star sky, the right moon to it, the right lightning strike. And I thought that was incredible.
Yeah, that's unbelievable there. Yeah. Wow.
Really
I've just seen the dawn breaking behind you because I can see daylight on the wall.
Yeah, finally
It's
get a bit of daylight here. Yeah,
it's a beautiful thing. It's going to be a great day, Ryan. So I'm just kind of thinking. I wrote some notes about what we were talking about. So obviously we've talked about Topps era a little bit and Upper Deck. Losing the Marvel license, which is where your main thing is. Where do you see having obviously you've interacted with a lot more people than I get to do because I'm over in in England, so I don't get to do that as often. But what's the kind of feeling that you get and that you have yourself about where well, certainly Marvel, but more non-sports, where you feel that might be going in the next year, 2 years, 3 years, now that Fanatics have probably got the ball for quite a while.
Man, I'm gonna tell you, this is gonna be this was a tough pill to swallow for me there. One of the other things that happened at OAX there is you got a lot of the breaker community was there as well. There's been well, I shouldn't say small. It's grown to be quite a large community that's still
Oh yeah,
breaking 2024 masterpieces. Grego's set there has almost like a bit of a cult following, and all of them were at OAX.
wow,
Probably 25 to 30 people that were just strictly breakers that pretty much primarily almost exclusively rip his product were there. And they had a lot of insight as far as the direction and the way things were going and stuff because they're starting to move into the newer top sets and things like that, and they were pretty like candid with us, and they were like, yeah, this isn't going to be designed for people that are character collecting, that are doing this stuff or have been doing this stuff, for years or whatever. And it's going to be, like even the design of the way that they're breaking the product is like there's not, you can't like buy a character slot. It's not designed that way. The model that it's shifting to on Whatnot and stuff like that. So, you know, for where I think it's going and stuff like that, I mean, I think it's going to become something that's going to be more and more exclusive, less and less affordable. We're not going to be able to do this the same way that we did it before. I don't know if character collecting really, I mean, I had a conversation with Fausto at one point in time, maybe a year and a half ago, whenever we started to see the trend of this direction, was like, I don't know if people will be able to do some of the stuff that you yourself, Ian, myself, a lot of the other character collectors have done, because every single set's going to have 40 parallels, or it's only going to be, breakers are going to be the only people that are going to be able to afford to get the boxes, right? And then people are buying digi spots
or the
or whatever.
availability to them.
Yeah,
Right.
fair enough. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then the resale market, and then the resale market's going to be like, astronomical, because that's what, those people are, it's like, if it costs X amount for you to rip a box open, you need to get your money back whenever you're selling the cards, right? So you would need to sell them in theory at a certain price point to be able to recoup or whatever, right? So it creates this domino effect, in my opinion, that it's just not sustainable, and it'll be interesting to see, in the future how that plays out. I mean, it doesn't look like Topps is struggling though. Like, the breaks sell, that's the part that's crazy to me. I've seen certain sketch card artists that were $150 artists, on Upper Deck cards going for $1,500.
That bit confuses me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure how I feel about that. So that's all I'll say. But it does confuse me enormously. The in particular the sketch card kind of bump that we're seeing. All of a sudden, they're hot gold. But the thing is, it's only the Topps ones. It's not having a backwards effect.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's the thing. So I mean, the whole breaker thing, it feels, to sum it up, the expression I had in my head when you were talking was tail wagging the dog. A little bit.
Yeah.
And again, like I said, sustainable, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's achieving what they want to as a company, but I'm not sure what it's doing to the hobby. But the thing is, it's not just Marvel that's seeing it. It's across all non-sports and across a lot of sports now as well.
Yeah.
Like it or not, that's the way it's going. I think I was on Greg McLaughlin's Rebel Base Card podcast, this episode that just dropped, talking about that. And I think that doesn't mean, just because that's the noisiest bit there doing stuff, doesn't mean you can't collect in a way, or in a new way, or in a different way, or adapt and not still do your own thing. So he's talking about still collecting vintage Topps such and such baseball from the 60s. You can still do that. You can still, I could still get into this sport that I'm very tempted to do and just go after it in a certain way, and I could still do that if I wanted to. But yeah, certainly for new stuff, and certainly for those IPs like Marvel.
My case study for new stuff right now has been One Piece. One Piece has been wildly interesting to me as far as I love card construction. I love, what kind of parallels are they making? What are they doing different? For a TCG, they're spending an awful lot of time on really high quality controls. Some of their parallels, the layered holographics and the things they're doing are fantastic. Serial numbering has just entered their world, which is going to change things wildly. And if you look at some of the out of 100, out of 250, what they're bringing on the top end of some of their apparel is incredible for
Yeah,
their
that's
expo.
definitely that's a hot product right now for sure. You see it all over social media, for sure. That's a great point. That's a great point.
It's fun to see what a not new IP, but relatively new to the card game. I think we're at OP14 just releasing now. But in in about the last 3 years, it's been a perfect little snippet of, like, what happens when then serial numbering hits and their distribution is increasing, um, and then also multiple platforms of exposure, the TV show, the live action, this is all kinda
Mm.
hitting all at once, creating a storm, so it's very interesting to me. I've dabbled a little bit in a small collection just so I can kinda see what they're doing, but
Yeah.
it is pretty interesting.
Interesting. Did you do so much as I said that I was drawing a line under Upper Deck, and to a large extent I have when I'm looking at Mr. Tops. However, then Finding Unicorn says hold my beer.
Hmm.
Have you eyed up any of that? Because Black Cat in a couple of sets has been absolutely stunning at a fraction of the price, I should say.
I have not. I actually another part of my criteria is sticking to American releases as well.
Yeah.
That's another part of my, it's like if you're doing what I'm doing, like you're going for every card and a one of one plates and all that, and you're grading it, there has to be hard limits in some areas, or it would
Yeah.
get, just
Well, it wouldn't get
absolutely,
graded.
yeah.
A lot
Yeah,
of them.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it wouldn't be. Yeah, so that's part of the. I don't do any of the foreign sets. I do just strictly
Gotcha.
the American releases as well. But I will say, to your point, I have seen some of those cards and they are gorgeous. Even
Yes.
some of the Kakawao,
Kakawau's been doing great.
Kakawao
Sorry,
that just came out.
it's Kakawao that I meant. Sorry.
Okay,
Finding Unicorn. Actually, no, there was a Finding Unicorn set, but yeah, no, Kakawao
Yeah.
have had 2 now with Black
okay,
Cat.
Mhm.
okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And those
Yeah.
cards, I was quite impressed with the ones I saw. It's just not something
Aura.
that I'm gonna go into myself. So.
Mhm.
Mm, okay, all right. So, any new budding Juggernaut collectors out there? There's your field of opportunity
Yeah.
to go for,
Look at
because
the
Ryan has declared it off limits.
Yeah,
Um,
I try to not be that though. And there's a gentleman in Australia named Richard Cube who collects Juggernaut pretty heavily as well, and we have a great
yeah,
relationship. We bounce cards back and forth, or we have in the past about he wanted one of the golden treasures from Marvel Platinum, and I ended up like getting that over there to him.
nice.
And we've had a great relationship and stuff like that. I try not to like gatekeep or be that kind of person or
yeah.
whatever,
Mm,
So.
mm. That's interesting. And of course, we've had Magic the Gathering as well, which had a fair
Mm.
smattering of Black Cat for me. Probably didn't have anything for you because it's a Spider-Man theme set so far.
Mm.
Yep,
Um,
yep. I've been marked safe from the Magic the Gathering.
okay,
If
all right.
if you will. So.
Fingers crossed. I mean, that's the thing. Even though I've got this, because there's only so much revenue to spend on these things. But unfortunately, one of my bigger things alongside Black Cat is MCU stuff, and
Okay.
specifically Eternals and Hawkeye. So the new Tops the Collector set, for example, has just been
Okay.
as I mean, I haven't bought any because I'm not mad enough to spend $650 on free cards and randomly.
Right.
I know, I have that
Mhm.
same reaction,
Yeah,
Ryan. But
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
you can tell
Yeah.
you're flagging a bit. You need to get some more coffee
Sorry,
in you.
yeah.
No,
Yeah.
that's fine. But the the prices on them are dropping so fast.
The singles or the boxes?
Singles.
Okay,
That's the
okay.
thing. It makes no sense whatsoever. I think I've probably spent about the same, if not less, than a box. And I've picked
Wow.
up a lot of out of 100 perfection cards that I want, including a couple of autos. So
Wow.
it
That's
just
great.
doesn't make sense to buy the boxes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no.
Um, but,
Yeah.
but
not at
that's
this
the thing.
point.
It's the same with the Top Studios, Marvel Studios Chrome. The
Yeah.
prices are just like, um, But in that, the interesting thing for me was the fact they did boxes specifically for breakers, and it's that thing. They're making products specifically for that. For that.
Yeah.
That
And
kind of
you
distribution
know
channel, I guess.
and whenever it's like that too, it makes you like I would be less inclined to buy a box, right? Like if you know that there are boxes that are being delegated to breakers or whatever, right? They're probably gonna
With
pack those
exclusive parallel
boxes,
bits.
yeah, that are gonna like
Yeah, that's
make people more interested in, it's like they're more likely to be hot, if you will, or whatever, and
Yeah.
that turns me off as well. So
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I guess it's enabling everyone to be part of your distribution channel. So as a business model, I think
yeah.
it is pretty damn good. You can't take that
yeah.
away.
Yeah, that's
Um,
the worst part about it, right? Is like they are selling out spots. They are
yeah.
selling out these breaks,
Yeah.
right? So that's the
Yeah.
other,
Yeah.
So for gritted teeth, I'm like, yes, okay.
Yeah, like with Mint, all the San Diego Comic-Con exclusive Doctor Dooms and stuff,
Mm,
and the San Diego Comic-Con exclusive parallel that was
mm,
beautifully done. The black and gold and silver checkered bordered one was beautiful.
yeah.
But it's still a tough break. It's a really tough break.
So I guess where next for you, Ryan? Obviously, you're backfilling. Sounds to me like you've got a pretty good handle on it outside the half a dozen or so that are still on your radar. Are you
Go
going to
ahead.
stay with Juggernaut? Are there other characters that you dabble with? Is it going to be more original art? How are you going to cut your cloth from now on?
So I do collect two other well, I should say I collected one other character, but it recently has become a second character or a third character, I guess.
Okay.
As I said earlier, my dad also he had in his modest collection of books that he had was mostly X-Men, and then he had a lot of martial arts storylines, Master of Kung Fu, Shang-Chi, early Iron Fist, early Marvel Premiere, and some like Deadly Hands of Kung Fu, the Marvel magazine. I'm not sure if you're
Yeah, yeah,
familiar
yeah.
with, but yeah.
I know. Yeah.
So I got introduced to a lot of that stuff as well. And I'm a big fan of the Daughters of the Dragon. Pretty much exclusively for the stories that were in Deadly Hands of Kung Fu. It's a funny story here. I'll share it here. I actually love telling this story. Whenever I would ask to read those comics as a kid, Deadly Hands of Kung Fu 32 and 33, my father would pull out of the collection and not let me read those. And I didn't really I clocked it, but I didn't really understand it, until I got a bit, at a certain point in my teenage years, whenever I started going to comic shops myself or whatever, I got curious about that and I asked for those books. And it took a little bit to find them, but eventually I did. And it turns out that there is topless images of Colleen Wing in those stories, and that is what my dad was trying to hide from me with
Pops
those
was
books there.
Oh,
And it was interesting. I got that book, and then I figured out that that's what the situation was, and then I ended up reading it was a two-parter in third. It was those Marvel magazines have several stories in one magazine,
yeah.
and then the Daughters of the Dragon was one of those stories. In Deadly Hands of Kung Fu 32, and it was the first time Missy and Colleen were the main characters of their own story. And then the next issue was Deadly Hands of Kung Fu 33, which is the end of that Marvel magazine's run, actually, and it was the follow-up finale story of that two-parter. And to be honest, as much as I love Juggernaut, that single two-parter comic is probably my favorite comic of all time.
Wow.
I love that story. It was for me. It was so pivotal in my development as a comic or a reader, if you will, if you were a fan, in the sense that those Marvel magazines were not like what you would imagine Marvel to be. There was very
Mhm.
adult themes in them, obviously, with the topless photos and stuff like that. It was almost Sin City-esque, if you
Mm.
will, before Sin
Gotcha.
City, right? The whole premise of that story was Colleen's grandfather gets killed, has somebody kills Colleen's grandfather, and then she goes to the funeral in Japan, and then her great uncle tells her that she has to do the Giri. She's the only bloodline that's left, and so her and Misty go to Hong Kong to avenge, her grandfather's killing. And it's got a lot of adult elements that I had never seen in comics before. It was pretty hardcore, to be quite frank. And
Mm,
it was Claremont before Claremont was who he is today, right? As well,
gotcha.
he was the writer on it, right? And that was the first time where I was like, oh man, like this is good. It's like I was invested in it, right? Like a lot of the early X-Men that I had read and stuff like that was a bit hokey, right? The writing was a little
Yeah.
spotty and stuff like that. But this was the first time I was like really invested in a story and was super impressed with a storyline that kept me captivated in it and stuff like that. And Marshall Rogers did the artwork on it. I think the artwork is very special. It doesn't look like a lot of other comic art that I had seen up to that point.
I'm just looking at it now. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a spectacular two-parter. I love that two-parter. To this day, I still I go back and read it maybe once a month or whatever. So as heavily as I collect Juggernaut, I've got a lot of the big Colleen Wing stuff. I've got both the Marvel Platinum one of ones that actually chose the art from that exact comic for the Marvel Platinum, which was a nice touch for me. Made me obviously much more inclined to pursue it. And I also have a lot of the original. This is so many things at once here, but at OAX, I actually found an original page from that comic.
Oh wow.
It's a finale. It's a finale splash page where Colleen, whenever she finally kills the guy that killed her grandfather, and I just got it framed and hung it up downstairs. And I also have they reissued that story with an additional Claremont and Marshall Rogers Daughters of the Dragon story that they did in a different Marvel magazine a little bit later, called Safe Streets, which was
Safe
Safe Streets. It was in Bizarre Adventures 25 was the name of the comic that it was in, or the Marvel magazine that it was in. And they did another story. It's actually it was kind of weird. It was a vampire storyline. But I have a lot of the original art for those stories because they were part of my development. And I collect those, like the title splash actually for the third story there, the Safe Streets. I own that. I have that downstairs in my house. And then I also have where I was going with that was those two stories from Deadly Hands of Kung Fu plus that one, the Safe Streets, were reissued as a combined, like you know how they reissue comics or whatever.
Yeah.
They reissued those three stories together in 2006, and it was called the Daughters of the Dragon Deadly Hands Special. And I also own the cover of that original art.
Oh wow. Okay.
So I collect that pretty heavily. I collect those characters pretty heavily, Misty and Colleen as well. I've just started to kind of backlog Misty's cards. I originally wasn't collecting Misty's cards, but now that's part of my backlog process. Instead of moving forward with Topps, I've started to collect Misty's stuff. But those characters are also characters that I collect pretty heavily, and I dabble into stuff outside of trading card art for those characters.
Yeah.
So
wow. Okay. That you've just sent me down a rabbit hole. While you've been talking, I've been eBaying, and I've already purchased one of those issues you've been talking about. So,
you should. I think it's fantastic. Let me know what you think about it.
Yeah, I'm going to dive in. No, well, to be honest with you, the Deadly Hands are probably outside my budget at the moment, unless I can sell anything else on eBay. Get there now.
Well, what you could do is
Bizarre
if you
Adventures 25.
Okay. Well, what I was going to say is if you want to just skip the Deadly Hands, just get the Deadly Hands special. It's going to be pretty cheap. It was the re-release, but it has all the stories in them.
I'm a sucker for the Marvel magazines. I've got a few copies of Bizarre Adventures. And I really, really like them. I mean, I'm looking at Bizarre Adventures 25 now, and just that early Black Widow, the visuals of it, I think are the best period of Black Widow.
Yeah.
And of course, there's that image I've just seen on the inside with the black background that just looks absolutely phenomenal on the inside front cover where she's there with the gun pointing at the viewer.
Just fantastic art.
Yeah,
fantastic
it reminds me of the style of Bond stuff at the time as well.
Yeah.
It really does. The aesthetic of it. I love it. Oh, Ralph Macchio's in there as associate editor. So I'm looking at it now. All right. I'm going to be ordering that, and I'll have a copy of it in the week, and I'll let you know.
Yeah, let me know.
I'll let you know what I think of that. But yeah, that's fabulous. What did you think of, as someone who's into that, what did you think of the representation of those characters in the Iron Fist and
horrific, dude. They were trying to play off of there was a Daughters of the Dragon series that came out in 2006 that was a reissue. And I also I'm not gonna lie, I do also love that storyline.
I'm looking
for different reasons. For different reasons, right? They had a very hip hop. It was an African American artist who did the artwork on it, and he added a lot of like hip hop undertones to that series, and I thought it was really well done. There's some like really cool references. There's like some Pimp My Ride references. It was a very like period piece, if you will, for that time frame. I think that they were trying to play into that a bit more as instead of the traditional kind of portrayals of Misty and Colleen. And I think that if they had went with the more traditional stuff, it would have hit better. Whereas I just didn't. It just didn't do anything for me. Whenever I was watching it there. So
yeah, I mean, I don't think I ever finished the Iron Fist series.
yeah,
I
it
watched
was. I
everything in
mean,
this series.
abysmal.
It was
I thought.
interminable is the word I was going to use, but yeah,
Yeah,
we'll go with
perfect. Yeah.
abysmal. Yeah, we'll go with abysmal. Much as I love the actor who was playing his brother, Pelfrey, Tom Pelfrey.
Okay.
He's a really good actor, and he was in what was that show? Banshee. He was in Banshee.
Okay.
And he was in that show with Mark Ruffalo recently on HBO. The name of which escapes me. I'm getting old, Ryan. Don't get old. You start to forget stuff. This is fabulous. Where can people go to eyeball the wonderful stuff that you pick up and collect?
My Instagram is where I share most of my stuff. I do have a comic art fans gallery that I'm sort of working on now since I've got exposed to kind of that world of stuff. I
Very
haven't
cool.
uploaded all of my stuff. I had a lot of commissions at OAX and stuff that I got to try to get up there on the website. But my Instagram is what you see there on the screen. It's supersized_Rye, and then a lot of my collection is shown there. A lot of my original art, a lot of the cards, things like that are there. Anybody's welcome to message me if they have any questions about grading, or that's something that I talk to a lot of people about. But if you wanted to see the display and stuff, that's the best place to look. So
wow, I think it's great. I mean, Josh, throw him a follow if you haven't already. I've been following him for a while.
Absolutely.
I just love seeing the stuff. I mean, one thing I will say is, Ryan, you're in a pretty good space. You overlap quite a lot of the different communities of Marvel collectors. And what I mean by that is that there are different. There's obviously Discords, and then there's groups here, and then there's groups here, and a lot of them have got. I hesitate to use the word beef, but differences, shall we say? Yeah, click is the word, which is frustrating and understandable because humans. It's just the way it goes, unfortunately.
Absolutely.
But I love the fact that you seem to be fairly agnostic and just like genial is the word I'm thinking of, in just helping people out and just not getting involved with a lot of that bullshit. So hats off.
I appreciate that. I intentionally try to navigate that way as well, right? It's a weird spot where if you don't, I'm going to choose what I say carefully here. To do what I'm doing, to be able to get access to the things that I want to be able to get access to be able to get the cards that I want to be able to get, you have to navigate all these different spaces, right? In a way where no one is getting a bad feeling from you, if that makes sense. You have to understand how to navigate these spaces in a way where like Ian said there, I'm very neutral in a lot of different ways, and that is hyper intentional so that I'm able to collect and have my experience in a way that's not influenced or interrupted by politics in any sort of a way. And it sucks that in some ways that it has to be that way, for sure, that there is sort of some of those dynamics in our community and stuff like that. But I try to steer clear and play a very neutral spot in a lot of that, in order to make sure that I'm not gate kept from something that I would potentially want to get or whatever. And I also try to be mindful of like that for other people in our community as well, and like try to give them heads up about things and how they should handle this and that or whatever, to make sure that there's not any sort of mischievous kind of endeavors going on that kind of aren't really necessary and stuff like that.
So. Unfortunately, there are mischievous endeavors going on, and there are some very strong personalities as well. Not necessarily the two aren't necessarily the same thing, but that's just life. So yeah, like I said, hats off to you for navigating that. You're a brave and wise man.
It's a great approach.
I appreciate that.
What's the expression? Never shit where you eat.
Right.
I
yeah,
like
for sure.
And
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
I mean, for one thing, there's just a natural way of doing good business, caring about the hobby, trying to be a steward of the hobby, and then logically at the top end of some of these sets, the opportunities are going to be incredibly rare. And in business and
Yeah.
in life and in a lot of other things, you have to make sure you project who you are to a certain extent, but it's about making sure you do good business and do a good deal.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
And are nice to work with, and people can sort of expect a consistency from you.
Yeah.
If they feel that you actually care about the cards, that you genuinely love the cards
Oh,
more
yeah.
than
Yeah.
the money, the value, and other things.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. For
amazing
sure.
the doors that are open to you. So
Yeah, yeah, and I hope that, like, in my approach to that, to piggyback off what you're saying there, all of that stuff is great points. I always hope that my collection speaks for itself, right? As far as
yes.
how passionate I am about it, or how much I do care about it.
Mhm.
And I think that has for the most part rung true for me in my experiences in dealing with people and stuff like that. Like, people can see that, I've pumped a ton of money into my collection, right? And it's like, this is something that I'm, like, dedicated to, and it means something to me.
Yeah.
It matters to me, and I think that that is the most
Right.
important thing that other people should be able to see, from what I'm doing and stuff.
Yeah.
So,
A collection like that doesn't just happen. Takes a lot of time, effort, and breaking bread. A lot of it.
Absolutely, yeah, lots. I was thinking about this the other day, so I'm going to ask you this as a pop quiz before we kind of sign off and let you go and get some
okay.
breakfast. Um, House catches fire. Worst case scenario, yeah. What's the one thing you got time to grab?
One thing.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be one
He's
card.
thinking I have time to
Could be
snatch more
one
than one.
binder, could be one display case, could be a Zion
It
case.
probably would be the Marshall Rogers Daughters of the Dragon reissue cover that I have downstairs. It would be that or the Jusco 2016. But original painting for the Battle Spectre, the Juggernaut and Colossus. But I think I would probably, just for the sentiment to my journey and my story, I would grab the Daughters of the Dragon reissue cover.
Okay. Do you have any pets?
6.
6?
Yeah.
Jesus. Wow. I wasn't expecting that. I thought
Yeah.
you were just going to say, yeah, we've got a dog. And I was like, there you go, dog under one
Yeah.
arm, painting under the other. But if you got 6,
Nah. Yeah.
There you go.
yeah, you're not going to be able to carry them all.
And the paintings going, or the original art's going first.
Yeah, I was
So
going to say,
yeah.
yeah. I'm the same on that one. Weird. I was having this thinking the other day, because I used to have my black hat collection when it was a little bit smaller. I used to have it in a massive, what's the word? They did DJ cases, so they were like flight cases. They look like
Okay.
flight cases, but they were briefcases. And when you open them up, they've got like big 3-ring D rings for the
Oh, okay.
sleeves for the CDs to go into.
Yeah.
And they're
Yep.
pretty chunky things. And so what I was doing is, because you can use Ultra Pro 9 pocket platinum pages with those,
Yeah.
or any Ultra Pro product.
Okay.
And so I had it in there. And so I knew I'd have one thing to grab for my black cat
Okay.
collection. Now that
Okay.
I've moved to slipcase binders, it's across 5 binders. So there's no way I'm carrying all
It's
those.
a little bit
Yeah.
different.
Yeah.
So for me, I think it would probably be, sorry, Felicia, you're burning. There's one binder that I have all of my Star Trek movie on card autos in,
Okay.
including Khan, including Shatner, including Nimoy,
Wow.
all those guys. And yeah, I can't let Khan burn. So
Yeah.
Khan's
Running back
coming
in
with
the
me.
house for it. Yeah.
Yeah, cat
I
under
know
one
the
arm,
feeling. Yeah.
Khan under the other. So yeah, that would be mine at the moment. Might change.
Yeah.
I doubt it will be. I doubt it will do.
Yeah.
Ryan, thank you. I've been wanting to talk to you on this for the longest time, and then we were talking about some scurrilous actions that our favourite frenemy
Shenanigans.
was up
Yeah.
to, or OAX or something. And I was like, I'm just going to ask Ryan to come on and tell us all about OAX and what he gets up to. So yeah, so this is great. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem, man. Anytime, dude. I love doing stuff like this too. I know I'm not the most, like, I don't like do like a YouTube channel or any stuff like that or whatever, but I do enjoy coming on and talking and having conversations about this stuff. I
Oh
really, I
yeah, it's
really do
been
enjoy
great.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I always say you don't have to have a talk show to do the talk show circuit.
Right.
Very
So,
true. Very
you
true.
can go on your Johnny Carson, you can go on your Letterman, or you can come and talk to us, who are the scrappy kind of on at 5 o'clock kind of or 3 in the morning kind of version. So yeah. So what I'll do, this episode will be live on audio on Thursday as normal. The video will be up so you can see this episode for those who are listening. And I'll put all the links to Ryan's socials in the show notes. And thank you, Josh. Thank you, Ryan. Ryan, do you remember how we sign off the episodes?
Sorry,
You
there
wrote
was a
it
lot
down,
of.
didn't you?
I did. No, yeah,
It's
it's my
early.
fault. Yeah,
It's early
yeah.
o'clock. It's early o'clock.
It's early o'clock.
Yeah, it is indeed. It is. I believe is enjoy collecting.
You would be right in that. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
We know.